Welcome to another episode of At the Bar, this time presented by Arcadia Economics, and we are at the New Orleans Investment Conference. I'm your host, Kelly Earle with Skeena Resources, and I'm joined, as usual, by Brent Cook with Exploration Insights and Mickey Fulp, the mercenary geologist. Welcome to New Orleans, one of my favorite cities, and I know you both here a lot too.
And so we're sitting at the bar here, the hotel bar. Very nice time. We're all drinking. I actually tried to order Redbreast, which is a very good Irish whiskey. But then I took a look around and I saw some Redbreast and they didn't have it. So I had some Jameson and too much, huh?
You know, when we first sat down, Mickey's first drink here was actually a Cosmo, and then he decided that he shouldn't have a Cosmo. He should switch it up.
So I have a So you're wearing red, and I'm wearing a Trump inauguration tie. Now, I'm not a Republican, but here's Brent over here wearing left-leaning Democrat blue. The people I like to call Dems, D-I-M-S. Now, that doesn't include Brent, so Brent's just a little conflicted. As we get older, sometimes
you just said a mouthful, Mickey.
Get the mic. So,
okay.
I mean, that's actually appropriate for this show because it's a great show. A lot of political discussions, macroeconomics, geology, that sort of thing. Today, my presentation focused on science. I think there's a big misunderstanding in the world as to what, in the U.S. anyways, to what science is and what it isn't. And really, I talked a bit about why we should trust science, which is because it's vetted, it's peer-reviewed. You've got, if I'm studying a particular topic, I put out a paper, it gets reviewed by my peers, people in the same industry, same thing. They check it, they check the data, it goes through this whole process, and although it's not always accurate or perfect, it's as good as it's going to get. And so that's why I think you should trust science. And then, I got into the geology and that sort of thing.
So how does that relate to in the junior mining space? When you're picking stocks, tell me what good science looks like, what bad science looks like, and how people can avoid bad science? Thoughts?
Well, I saw Brent's talk from the green room, so I didn't have to look at Brent, but I listened to Brent and saw all of his talks, and it was quite interesting what you did. I really liked the thing you did with inductive and deductive reasoning. I fully appreciated your volcanic eruptions versus CO2, and your point really can be summed up in one sentence, and that's correlation does not imply causality, and it never has and never will. But a lot of people take correlation as cause, and that's not correct. I think what we have in the junior resource sector is we have a lot of good stories. We have a lot of good salesmen. A lot of these guys would sell cars like they were going out of style, used cars. And so a lot of lay investors can get pulled in by stories that to you and I with science background don't make a lot of sense. And I think that's one of the problems. And self-promotion for newsletter writers is maybe you ought to get a good newsletter writer who has the ability to do technical due diligence and separate the wheat from the chaff.
Or at least a team that works with them that has technical understanding and expertise. Because,
exactly.
And as a geologist...
Well, you don't always know because those people have a vested interest. Let's get an independent third-party opinion.
And as a geologist who works on the corporate development and investor relations sides, it's so valuable to have that technical background because you can weed through things so much faster if you ask someone who has a technical understanding or if you have one yourself.
Certainly, and that's a good point. It is correlation doesn't equal causation, and this is why I think a lot of money gets misspent or wasted in this sector, is that geologists, explorationists tend to go out and they'll collect data, not biased data. If this works for my theory, if I think I've got a porphyry copper here, if this anomaly or whatever works for my story, my theory, I'll keep it. But I'll ignore these drill holes over here that missed because whatever reason they drilled in the wrong place, yada yada.
Yeah.
And that's what happens a lot is that you're being presented a biased data set without the full data set, and that's why so much money gets wasted.
So how do we avoid that as investors? How do we make sure that we have access to all the data and aren't being shown a biased opinion?
Well, again, I think, and this is a very difficult sector, very technical. There's all sorts of aspects of it, and I honestly believe if you're going to get into this, especially the junior side of it, you should have an advisor, a brother or a broker or a newsletter writer, someone who actually knows the industry, knows what the fatal flaws are in most of these projects, and can kind of steer you the right direction. But just walking into this, if you're a dentist, say, I like gold, I'm going to buy this because this guy told me he's got the 13 million ounces, you're going to lose money.
So I think that goes back a lot to team, which you guys always talk about, right? If you're coming into this as a new investor, one of the first things you should do is research the team behind it, because if one team's done it before, they're probably going to do it again.
And that's true. People make a big difference. The one thing I might disagree with you on, I wouldn't mind.
You're going to disagree? Really?
Always. That's what Brent and I are paid to do, is to agree or disagree and talk and reach. And we generally reach some consensus. We may agree to disagree at the end of the day, but we understand and we listen and we appreciate each other's opinion. I would never trust my brother, even if he was in the mining business. So you should never take advice from your dentist or your brother or your brother-in-law or your pastor or your broker, because your broker is probably in some way conflicted because he already owns the stock. Look for an independent opinion. Does that make sense?
I would completely agree.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think that a broker builds, if you've got a good broker, he builds up a relationship with you. Like I use Sprott Resources, and the brokers there's some very good brokers there, and they help you. I mean, most of them are somehow technically involved in the industry, and it's a big help. Like always, if my brother was a mining engineer for Newmont somewhere, I would trust his opinion on mining engineering. So that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so I'm talking generically, and I'm not trying to disparage brokers, but most, or my brother, or the sister I never had, but I think you got to be careful with brokers. I'll tell you, I know more about the share structure, and the projects and technical, or I know as much about share structures, and I know probably more about any project than any broker that I know, with the exception of maybe your broker at Sprott, who is originally a geologist, has geological training. But what I use brokers for, and I use full service brokers for all my trades, and I use them for their ability to trade efficiently and tell me how I want to buy this stock, I want to sell this stock, how do I get a shave on the buy side or add smart trading. So my brokers generally don't bring me ideas. I generate my ideas and then I run them through the broker.
That's great. That's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, making money in the stocks and geology.
So I think,
well, we're all trying to make money.
I think what we're all saying is it's so important to get a lot of independent opinions before you buy a stock. You need to talk to your broker, a newsletter writer, get feedback, do the research, or you're going to get suckered into some of those companies with bad science, with a bias, and you're going to end up losing a lot of money in this space.
On the exploration panel here at New Orleans, Rick Rule was the MC, and he's always has this thing. Okay, everybody, you've told them how to yada yada yada. Now just give them a fish that they want to fish, and I made the point that fish get stale. They start to spoil. And if you're investing in this junior sector, these penny stocks, you better keep track of what's going on, because those things mostly they'll go bad.
If it's wrapped in yesterday's newspaper, don't buy it. If I need someone to look at a balance statement or financials, or a balance sheet or financial statement, I know who to call. If I need a mining engineering opinion, independent, I know someone to call. If I need someone to give me an evaluation on diamonds, which I don't know anything about, I know someone to call. So you've got to develop a cadre of friends and associates that can give you good advice when you're a bit out of your element, and we're all a bit out of our element on some part of all these stories.
I would definitely agree. Or you can just go to your friendly neighborhood newsletter writer who's done all this research for you, right?
It works for me.
Well, it seems to work for me. I talk to him all the time. But tell you the truth, every show at some point will go, hey, Brent, what do you like here? And I say, well, I like this or that, or I don't like much. And Brent goes, what do you like, Mickey? And I go, I'm looking at this, and this looks promising. Go over and talk to these people, and let's talk after. So
I think that's a big advantage, having that network. I mean, Joe and I looked at 33 projects last year, all around the world. And so the idea, if I can talk to Mickey or Neil or somebody, and they can say, yeah, no, don't, it's not worth going to, that saves me a trip, and that's worth a lot. But anyway, I think we're running out of time here.
I would agree. And and we've all got a lot of liquor left to drink in our glasses. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me once again for At the Bar, this time hosted by Arcadia Economics. Cheers.